Hello, everybody, and welcome to GDT Live, presented by the Game Day Terps podcast. My name is Dayton Camo. Alongside me, we've got Colton Davies. A great one in store today. Hopefully, you guys get to stick around and enjoy all of it. We've got Jackson Smith, just committed to Penn State, the Nittany Lions. From the Tri-City Americans, he's coming on in a few minutes. It is a pre-recorded episode. We spoke with him earlier this morning, and then the prospect Don Anthony Donati is coming on to talk a little bit about some prospects, the NHL draft, and whatever comes up. But it's going to be a good one. Colton, how you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. We got a good interview with Jackson Smith. Should be a good episode.
Yes, sir. Couple things I wanted to touch on just before we get into the interview. The Olympic schedule was released today. Stephen Ellis posted that on Twitter. And the men's side, Canada, USA, they don't face each other in the preliminary rounds. Canada faces off against Switzerland, the Czechs, and France. So that's an interesting round robin for Canada.
It's like you said, it's interesting. That's a heck of a schedule. I saw Chris Johnston say that the games are played in the afternoon. Let me just double check what he had replied. But the games are going to be somewhat available. So 10:40 a.m. Eastern for the Czechia and France game, and 3:10 p.m. Eastern for the Switzerland game.
Okay, so, I mean that's not terrible.
Yeah, so. Yeah, not the worst, right? We'll see kind of what happens from there.
Yeah, definitely not. But without further ado, everyone, you're tuning in to see Jackson Smith. We spoke with him earlier, so let's roll that.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome into this episode with Penn State commit Jackson Smith. We're very excited to welcome him to the show. Jackson is, of course, going to be a projected top 10 NHL draft pick in 10 days when the NHL draft heads to Los Angeles. Jackson, how's it going, man? Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, it's going great. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Let's shine some light on obviously all the recent news about what you have done with your commitment to Penn State. You just got back home, I assume, from your visit there. What was it like down there being at the facilities? I believe it's the Pagula Arena. What was it like down there?
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible. Going down there was sweet. I got down there and they brought a couple of the boys out and played golf with me. And then the next day I got to go and I toured the campus and toured the facilities, and just everything about it is incredible. What they have there, what they have to offer, it's insane. So being able to see it in person and commit there and be able to play there next year, it's really exciting.
Do you know any other guys there?
Yeah, I know a couple of the guys, a couple of Calgary guys like Van Olm, Fink, know them, and then Lev Katzen, who's going there next year. I've roomed with him at U18 Worlds, so I know a couple of the guys, and then I met a lot of them, and a lot of them have been reaching out. I've been in contact with every one of them, so all the guys have been incredible to me. They've been super nice and super welcoming, so it makes it even more exciting to get down there.
Yeah, you said it yourself. It's definitely a great place. Obviously, it seems to come into very welcoming.
Yes, very. I'm super pumped.
Does a decision like that, obviously there's a lot of thought behind it. I saw a recent interview with the Tri-City Americans you did, and you said it was one of the hardest decisions of your life to leave Tri-City and make this commitment. Can you kind of just shine some light for our viewers on what that decision was like for you to leave the Western Hockey League and leave Tri-City?
Yeah, like I said, it was one of the hardest decisions I've made. I love Tri-Cities. Loved everything about it. The people, the organization, the fans, the players. Literally everything. It was incredible. So having to take the time to think about what is best for me, and figuring out what I need to do. It was really hard having to leave my boys. It's tough not being able to go out with them and eat with them or hang out with them away from the rink, or even hang out with them at the rink. It's sad to think about, but I'd kind of think about what's best for me and what's the best decision to make the NHL. And I felt there I can develop more, and become more NHL ready quicker. So that's what I did.
Okay, let's talk about your game for a second, Jackson. This season, you almost doubled your point totals and assists. That was crazy. You had 21 last year, 43 this year. What was something that you switched in your game that kind of just doubled your point totals almost?
Yeah, I think just be more confident in my play. I get a lot of opportunity in Tri-City, so just kind of capitalizing on that, finding options. I think that was big, and just kind of getting my game more well-rounded. I know the points were there as well, but improve my defense as well. So my all-around game. I was better in the D zone, which helped me offensively as well, being able to get the puck out of my end. And then I kind of I felt a lot more confidence in the offensive zone in the blue line, finding lanes, being a bit patient with pucks, and being able to find the lane to shoot the puck and jumping into the play and all that. So I think overall I just improved my my total game.
You played at the World U17s. You played at the World U18s. Is the World Juniors kind of the next goal for you internationally?
Yeah, I mean, of course. They got camp coming up here. Hopefully, I get an invite to that. So that's the next goal in the Hockey Canada world is playing at that stage. It would be such an honor. I've been watching that tournament since I was young. Super cool to see all those guys, and then last year seeing some guys that I know on the team. It's something that I'm striving towards. And hopefully I get the chance to play this year. And if not this year, I'm really hoping to play the year after. So,
don't mean to go on a tangent, but what's your favorite World Junior moment of all time?
Thank you.
I think I think probably the McTavish save on the goal line. A lot of the other ones I was really young for, so I think being able to really remember that and watching that and just being like, holy cow. Overtime gold medal, and then going down and scoring after that. I think that's probably one that sticks out of my head.
Yeah, I think that was underrated too. In the summertime, not too many people were watching. And the ones that were like diehard fans, and they were diehard hockey people. So I think it was a pretty sick play.
Yeah, that was incredible. Like watching that was just like, holy, like that was close.
Jackson, I also work for the Kamloops Blazers. I've seen you a number of times play in person here in Kamloops. Your game is just like I can, the word glaze obviously is a word I could use, but your game, you're incredible, man. But your physicality is something that I don't think a lot of people look at. You are more physical than it kind of seems to be. At least in those games against Kamloops, you were kind of roughing some guys around, and you and Jackson Adam are really good together. I really liked watching Adam as well. But what can you kind of say about your physical side of your game, and just you being that you're a bigger kid out there, obviously? So what can you kind of say to that?
Yeah, I think that's still something that I'm looking to bring more into my game. But I definitely have that physical side to me. Like back in like Bantam and midget, I would kill guys. So then coming into the dub, I didn't as much. But I think it's still a bit underrated. I still rough around a bit, and I get involved in the scrums and try to lay the body when I can. I think with my frame and my size, I have that in me, and I'm not scared to throw my weight around or take a hit. So still something that I'm looking to get even better at as a physical side, but I think that's another part of my game.
Is there anyone that you kind of model your game after, being a defenseman, a tall left-handed 6'3" defenseman? There's not many of them around.
I would probably say like a Miro Heiskanen or Shea Theodore. Both 200-foot defensemen who are good offensively, but also can shut down the play defensively, and big guys who skate really well. So
that's a great comparison, honestly. Yeah. Heiskanen is incredible. So watching him out there, I can see that. I can see a lot of that in you when I think about it now.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there a moment from Tri-City that you kind of look back on as like one of your favorite moments? I mean, I'm sure there's a handful, but can you kind of pick one or two that's been, a favorite that you can think of?
I mean, On the ice, there's a couple. Just it would probably be Seattle, the overtime winner this year that I had. That was one of them. The crowd there is pretty electric, so being able to kind of quiet them was pretty fun. But I would say most of my favorite moments would be off the ice.
Yeah.
There's always those moments on the ice, and they're incredible. Being able to be a part of a cool win, or being the guy who wins it for your team's always cool. But just being able to hang out with the guys, go to lunch with them, hang out with all the guys after, just going to one of the guys' house, hop in the hot tub, hop in their pool, stuff like that. You don't get those kind of moments that often. So being able to have that, it's something that I'll always look back on, and that's probably the stuff that I'll remember the most.
Is there a player on Tri-City that you kind of would say is underrated? Doesn't get a lot of looks in the WHL, but is arguably very good out there?
Yeah, I think Cash Cook. I think he's very underrated. He works his bag off, and he scares opponents. Opens up a lot of ice for other players on the ice. Played with him since I was young, and that's kind of been his game the whole time. So being able to play with him, this is going to be the second year out of our whole careers that we haven't played together. So it's going to be a bit weird, but I think he's an incredibly underrated player. Just he can score too. He makes plays, but his main game is just scaring other teams, and it's makes it a lot easier for the rest of us to play.
Looking over to the NCAA side kind of things a little bit, Jackson, I asked this question to Brady Schultz, Halifax Mooseheads captain, when we had him on and he committed. What's the probably most favorite, like what's your favorite arena that you're going to be playing in? What's the one that you're like most pumped to go play, like the team that you're pumped to go play?
Yeah. Probably one of the Big Ten schools, probably like a Michigan or Michigan State. Being able to play against those teams, I see. I've watched them in the championship and all of that stuff. So going to play in one of those is going to be pretty sweet. The atmosphere around it's always pretty cool. Big Ten playing Big Ten, it always gets pretty jammed in there. But I'm also just incredibly excited to play at the Pagula, the Penn State arena. Haven't gotten to play there, so I'm just super excited for the opportunity to just be there.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great arena. I know the Pagula's put like a bunch of money into the facilities there, and they did it recently. Actually, they put a bunch of money in, and I think it was Barstool or Spit and Chicklets that went around and did like a tour of the arena. Pretty sick.
Yeah, no, I watched.
I mean, you saw it firsthand.
Yeah, I watched that video before I went up there, and just seeing that was super cool. So being able to see that in person was even cooler. It's an incredible arena, and yeah, he put a ton of money into it. Just recently too, like 10 years ago, they kind of built the facility. So they're treated unreal out there. So I'm super pumped for it.
Have you had a chance to talk to Guy Godowski, the head coach over there?
Yeah, I've talked to him quite a bit in person and on over text. So he's been incredible. He's super excited to have me. I'm super excited for him to coach me. All the guys tell me how great he is. So just talking to him, he's an unbelievable guy and good guy, and he's really good. Apparently, he's an unbelievable coach too. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, I know a few people in and around that organization, and they speak so highly of him. So I was curious about that. He's an Edmonton boy as well, so from Canada, so you got that connection with them. So yeah, no, I just was curious about if you've had a contact with him.
Yeah, he's great.
Let's talk about your bantam and your minor hockey days, because you played in the CSSHL.
Yes.
So many players, Dayton was kind of talking about this. So many players come out of that league and are stars. What can you kind of say about the development of that league for players at a young age?
Yeah, I think that's the best league for our age. What they do there it's awesome. you go there and it's you're a student athlete, but they're really good about they know you're hockey players, so it balances out. It made school a lot easier on me and being able to focus a lot more on hockey. But just you go there and you skate in the mornings and you work out in the mornings and then you do your school and then there's stuff that you can do after as well. So there's always skill stuff that you can do. And then you're playing against the best competition too, which is a huge thing. So having that, it was unreal for us and unreal for everybody there. And I think that's why they have so many players that end up being really good hockey players, and they usually have the most drafted guys. So I think that's a big piece.
I'm just looking at your stats here, Jackson. In 2022 or 2021, 2022, you had a huge jump. You went from 2 points the year before in the AEHL, and then you came to the CSSHL, played the U15 prep school at Edge, and you put up 38 points in 29 games. What do you think went on there?
Yeah, I mean, in that 2 points, I only had 5 games there, but going into that year, I was I got a lot of opportunity at Edge, but yeah, that's kind of where my game kind of flipped. I kind of found something. I'm not sure what it was, and I just started to really improve my game. And I started scoring, started getting points. So yeah, I had a good season that year, and yeah, I grew a lot as a player at Edge, and they're huge for me.
I read that your dad won a Memorial Cup with Swift Current back in '89. A different style of player than you, so it seemed from the penalty minutes there. But what did your dad kind of teach you about coming into the WHL, about being a professional, and just all around? What did your dad kind of teach you?
Yeah, he was a different player. He was a fighter, protect. But he taught me a lot growing up. He was my coach, so he's always kind of been by my side. Kind of taught me almost everything that I know about hockey and how to be a good player. So yeah, he was just you got to enjoy your time there. He said like juniors was the best time of his life, and you got to be willing to be coachable. I think that's a big thing for me is being coachable and learning from mistakes and growing from them. So yeah, it was big for him just being able to listen to what your coaches have to say and not thinking you're better than everybody else and better than what everybody else has to say. So I think that was the main thing that I took from him.
With your dad as your coach, how were the drives home? There's a stereotype around hockey dads and the drives home always being like kind of an asshole, but how was your dad on the drive home?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the game. If I played good, if I played good, it was a good drive home. But when I didn't, he was definitely on me a bit. He was pretty hard on me growing up. But then once he stopped coaching me, once I got to kind of my U18 year at Edge, he knows I play my best when I have confidence. So even if I had a bad game, he started always just being there to pump me up, and it was always positive with me. And especially now, he's incredibly positive with me. And I think that's huge for me because he knows that I have the coaches who are there to kind of give it to me, and I learn from them. So he gives me a piece of advice, but he's always just, even if I have a bad game, he's there for me, and he's always just telling me how good I am at those times, especially. Honestly, more in the good games, he's telling me more what I need to do better. And I know I played good, and he knows that I know I played good. He's given me a little piece of advice, but when I play bad, he's been very positive with me. But growing up, it was sometimes with some tough car rides for sure.
Now, is your whole family along with your father coming with you to the draft?
Yeah, no, I've all my family is, and like a bunch of friends and a bunch of their friends too. I don't even know some of the people coming, so I'm just.
You got a list.
Yeah, basically they all set up the people coming, and I'm just going there, and I guess I'll meet them when I get there. So
nice. You've got other things on your mind, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot going on. So,
I got one more question kind of for you as we're going to kind of wrap things up with you, let you go to your workout and let you get on with your day. Was there a moment though, at what age, I should say, did you realize that you could have a future in hockey?
Yeah, I think I think probably my U15 prep year. You know, I like you said, I had a really good year there. But then you know, being drafted second overall, you know, not a lot of players can say they got drafted second overall. So
Mhm.
once I got that, I was like, you know what, maybe I'm pretty good at this. Maybe I can do something with this. So after that, I was kind of like, you know, I think I might have a shot. So
I love that. That's awesome. You're from Calgary. You grew up a Flames fan?
yeah, I mean, grew up Flames and also Blackhawks. Those were kind of my two teams.
Nice. Oh, good teams. Good teams. Who was your favorite player growing up? I mean, you're still growing up. Don't get me wrong, but who was your favorite player as a kid?
Yeah, you know, everybody. I'm a D man, but growing up, it was always Patrick Kane. You know,
Mhm.
just watching him, you know, I kind of idolized him growing up. But as a defenseman, I like to say Drew Doughty too. Watched him play a ton. You know, LA and Calgary play quite a bit, and I went to a lot of those games. So seeing him play, it's so those two players are probably my biggest guys I watched growing up.
Well, Jackson, last thing before you go, can we get a prediction for you for tonight?
Yeah, I think Oil got this one.
Okay.
I'm saying 5-3 Oilers.
Okay.
There you have it.
Yeah, that's my guess.
Colton and I
All
have been on every game of the series, so we'll see.
Hopefully, I'm
All
right.
right. Yeah, hopefully. All right, Jackson. Thank you so much for joining us today, man. Best of luck at the NHL draft and best of luck at Penn State. We're definitely rooting for you.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate the time.
Take care, man. Colton. How's it going? A great episode with Jackson earlier. Definitely an interesting one. One of the first players to come on and talk about commitments. So that was interesting to see. A little bit of a dive into his prior career and touched a little bit on his dad playing at the Memorial Cup. So it was a good interview with Jackson overall, I think.
Yeah, it was great. Big thanks to him for coming on the show again. Big thanks to Penn State as well for making him available. And yeah, fantastic interview. We're gonna have to get him back on sometime throughout the season next year when he's kind of figured it out and started playing some games down there in college. But I loved his answers. Thought he had some good answers there. Obviously, his commitment, you know, like he said, biggest decision of his life, and I think that's the case for a lot of these prospects, right? It's the biggest decision that they've had to make yet.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a decision that'll boost his career and only do good things for him. But why don't we move on
100%.
before Anthony joins us? Let's talk a little bit about the game tonight. Holy smokes! Do you think the cup is being handed out tonight?
Yeah, I have a weird gut feeling it will be. So
I don't know. The other thing that I saw, did you see all the stuff about the cup flying commercially?
yeah, I did. I saw the
Yeah,
video this morning that they showed.
that was wild. Randy Workman says right here, Jackson Smith is just out of the top 10.
Yeah, okay. I think he's the second best defenseman in the class, not named Matthew Schaefer. I think he'll go top 10. We'll see.
Maybe we'll have to have Randy come on sometime and share some of his insight on some prospects that he has.
Yeah, absolutely.
Willie says, yeah, the cup is getting handed out tonight.
Willie just wants to see the demise of Edmonton fans.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know though. It's tough to see Edmonton just giving up, and I don't think they're gonna give up. Like Zach said yesterday from Oilers Nation. If you haven't seen that episode, go check out yesterday's. Zach Lang from Oilers Nation joined us. But like I asked him about loading up that first line, Draisaitl and McDavid. I think if they do that and just say to the other three lines, like, you don't have to score, you don't have to worry about the offense, just shut them down and let 97 and 29 fly over the boards and put the puck in the back of the net. I think that's what the Oilers are going to have to do. Nothing has worked. The power play has been abysmal. Florida has shut everything down. I just can't see anything happening if they don't make a drastic change. And I don't know what drastic change they can make other than putting both of them on the top line and loading up.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. They put I saw something. I don't know how accurate it was, but I saw that Max Jones was skating on the first line. I thought that was interesting. I don't know how accurate that was, but there's
Wow.
like Zach kind of alluded to, there's not a lot that they can do other than just, buckle down and play the best that they can at 5v5.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, the focus has to be 5v5 like we said yesterday. They can't try and win on power plays alone. Like I said, Florida shut them down. But it's going to take some guys like McDavid, Draisaitl to step up. We saw yesterday, had the graphic up of the expected goals expected goals percentage, and all of them, other than Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, even Draisaitl is below 50%. McDavid's at 50. It's just not very intriguing if I'm an Edmonton Oilers fan.
Yeah, well, it's tonight, like Zach said, tonight is the game. You're expecting a legacy game out of Connor McDavid and Draisaitl.
Yeah. Well, we'll save our score predictions for the end. We do have Anthony Donati here, the prospect Don, coming on. And so why don't we welcome him in, Colton?
Sounds good.
Anthony, how's it going, man?
What's up, guys? How was the Jackson Smith interview?
It was great.
Lovely.
Let's get your thoughts first on. Let's get your thoughts first on him. What do you make of Jackson Smith's game, and where do you see him going in the draft?
Well, here's the thing. I'm a lot higher than him, probably than consensus, kind of where elite prospects have him around 6. But the thing is, like, Jackson Smith might be the 4th defenseman off the board if Kayshawn Aitchison kind of jumps him at for the 3rd overall spot, because I do think Radim Murka might go ahead of him, 6'6" right-handed defenseman. I just feel like obviously Jackson Smith has a lot more offensive upside, in my opinion. The way he just handles the puck, his skill, his offensive skill set kind of reminds me of like what the Blackhawks thought they were getting in Kevin Korchinski at 7. Obviously, it didn't end up happening as quickly as possible because of his defensive liabilities, but I think Jackson Smith is a much better defensive prospect than Kevin Korchinski. Also at that 6'3" frame, maybe 6'4". He grew up swimming, so that was also something that I think has helped him. He said it helped him with the VO2 bike. And I just feel like when you have a guy with this much stamina in games, it's very hard to push off the puck, especially when you're playing 20, 25 minutes a night. I think that this guy is just going to be kind of more of a top 4 player. I don't see him as a 3rd pair defenseman. I'm a lot higher than him. So
he compared himself to Miro Heiskanen, in a player that he tries to model his game after. Do you see a bit of that?
Well, the funny thing is Matthew Schaefer also says Miro Heiskanen as well as Cale Makar. So it's kind of funny that Miro is definitely a player that a lot of younger players would kind of want to look up to. I see Jackson Smith. I haven't really seen Miro Heiskanen, but I can totally see how he could take some elements of his game and try to emulate them, just because Miro Heiskanen is kind of what you want as a two-way defenseman that also has a lot of offensive prowess. So I could totally see him trying to be a Miro Heiskanen for sure. I would say a better Kevin Korchinski offensively and defensively, and I think that's not a knock on Jackson Smith. I think Kevin Korchinski could have been an incredible talent. I still think he can. It was just he was brought up to a really bad team really early on, and it destroyed his confidence. It's going to be a lot different with Jackson Smith. So it's just kind of like that kind of player comp.
Touching a bit on Radim Murka, I know we talked about it like 30 seconds ago, but do you think a team might take a jump on him just because he is that right-hand shot defenseman? And it's kind of the thing that teams are searching for. Like the Toronto Maple Leafs have been in a search for a right-hand shot defenseman for how long?
I don't think Toronto's getting him, but I totally understand what you're saying. 6'6", right-handed defenseman with he's been playing with adults since he was 16 years old. Obviously, he played against Yager once and tried to hit him, and I think that was a really fun talking point at the media scrums at the Combine. he's just a really great player and person. I think that this is a guy that might go 8 overall to, say, Seattle, maybe even 9 to the Sabres. I think that it's going to be him and Schaefer as the 2 players that go top 10 as defensemen. Because since 2010, there's been 2 defensemen in the top 10 for 15 years. I don't think that it changes this year. I do think that it could be Jackson Smith, but I think he could be slotted in at 11 and maybe Keyshawn Aitchison at 12. So we could see a run on defenseman in the 3 out of 4 picks from like 9 to 12. And I could totally see that being an outcome. But Radim Murka, his player comp for himself was Moritz Seider. I really like that. But Moritz Seider was obviously better offensively. He showed more upside. But Radim Murka I think he could be honestly like a absolute star in this league. Say he's quarterbacking a power play too with like Canucks. I think it would be a fantastic option if they keep that 15th pick. I don't think that they will, but him and Quinn Hughes, if Quinn Hughes stays, I think that would be an incredible top line. You just allow Quinn Hughes to do whatever he wants offensively. You slot in Murka on the other side and just let him play defense, use his length really well. He can cover a lot of the ice. So I just feel like him with a smaller player. I mean, even Lane Hudson, I could see him totally being one of those joystick offensive skilled defensemen and just plugging him next to them and let them cook.
He's almost be kind of like a second Tyler Myers in Vancouver almost.
That's a really good comp. Yeah. I don't see Moritz Seider, but I love the confidence, and he also wants to be the greatest Czech defenseman of all time. So I could definitely see Tyler Myers.
Yeah, he's got the confidence, obviously, if he's making statements like that.
Yeah, it was great.
So we kind of talked a little bit, you're talking about Chicago, and today it kind of came out, what Chaos talked about it, about trading the 3rd overall pick. Is that something that you see could happen?
Yeah, yesterday I think changed my opinion on this because of everything came out. And what Chaos obviously had Coach Petey out there. Shout out Coach Petey. He's really great. One of the best minds in entire media hockey. And I think that it's just something that could happen. I've heard a lot of names that I won't say on air, but they're looking for a young star forward that's probably under 26 years old. Every single name that I've heard is under 25. Or 25 or under. And I think that it's just going to be Frank Saravalli said it first. Then we saw it on the Cup of Coffee, and then we saw it again on Chaos. There's a lot of talk, and where there's smoke, there's usually fire. The couple players that the Blackhawks have kind of zoned in on in this class have been Caleb Desnoyers and Frondel, if we're talking about betting odds and also what I'm hearing. So it's kind of interesting that they're thinking of those 2 players at 3 overall, because it was never Porter Martone or Hagen. So I feel like a trade down was always in play. And also Jake O'Brien was somebody that I've heard could be a Blackhawk. So it's like, why would we pick him 3? Obviously, Jake O'Brien's a great player, but he's not a 3rd overall type of player. And now we're hearing Brady Martin could go 4. So is media higher on this class and scouting higher on this class than GMs? I actually think that could be the case in the top 5, because before there was a clear top 5, and those are not the players that are going to be drafted top 5. Porter Martone might fall to 8 or 9. Basically, if Seattle wants to take Murka. So there's a lot of different scenarios that could happen in this class, where if the Blackhawks just want a surefire young star that is offensive, that they can just slot next to Connor Bedard, like you think Jason Robertson, Svech. There's so many other guys that I think that could be options. Paterka, JJ Paterka, if you go 3, give them 3, a bunch of assets, Paterka and 9, and then try to pick up or trade up for Jake O'Brien too. That could be an option. Obviously, that would be the dream scenario for Blackhawks fans, but I think we will trade the pick. I think it's more 50-50, but we are going to trade one of our top picks, 3 or 25.
Talking about Caleb Desnoyers, we mentioned him. I saw something, I'm not sure how true it is, but I saw it on the Habs report on Twitter that Kent Hughes has been in talks with Utah Hockey Club for potentially trading up for that 4th overall pick. And Desnoyers was in talks there. Do you think that would happen?
So 2 months ago, this is where Kent Hughes probably got this idea. 2 months ago, I was on Blue Chip Prospect, and I said, and he's a huge Habs fan, and I was talking about who would be the best fit fit in a glove for prospects and teams. And I actually said Desnoyers and the Habs. I don't care how you get them. You have 7 picks in the first 82. You go up, you use all of those assets, and you go up for Caleb Desnoyers. They need a true second line center because they tried with Kirby Dach. Obviously, injuries really hurt him. And obviously, as a Blackhawks fan, it really sucked to see that. And they traded Frank Nazar for him. So that was their other 2C. Even though they didn't have Frank Nazar, it was just the spot. But they've been looking for their 2C for a very long time. I think that Caleb Desnoyers would be the absolute perfect fit for the Habs. I could totally see them giving them 15, 16, even 41 or plus, and then just trying to get as many, just use as many assets as possible to get that second line center for them for the future. Caleb Desnoyers had 2 bum wrists and was still killing it in the queue this year. He had a tough couple games in the Mem Cup, but his first 2 were absolutely incredible. The guy was playing a wing the entire time, and he's a true center because he can't take faceoffs because of the wrist injury. It was obviously impacting him. This kid is one of the best defensive players in the entire class. If the Habs get him, I'm terrified as any fan because they're building an absolute juggernaut. It looks like they're putting together the Avengers. I think the Habs, if Oilers don't win, I think the Habs have the best shot at winning a Stanley Cup for the Canadian for Canada for the first time in 30 years plus. So I think that they have the best shot at it if they get Caleb Desnoyers.
Yeah, and I talked about this with Russ Cohen the other day. He doesn't like to use the French aspect, a French player going to a French team, but I think that's just another, like, Desnoyers would be such a fan favorite there. The media would love him in an instant. I think they are laughing if they toss this guy into the wind.
Shout out Russ Cohen because he definitely helped me out at the combine. He was I was his right-hand man there, or what, he was just giving me the lay of the land for the combine because it was my first experience, and that guy is just awesome at sportsology. But the thing is, like, I think Desnoyers, sorry, he's just such a great personality. He won the best personality in the queue. This guy is somebody that everybody wants to talk to. He had so many media requests at Moncton this year that they had to stop them because of how much everybody wanted to talk to him. I think he is more the talk of the town. And to remind people, if you haven't been following this class for 4 years, Desnoyers has always been at the top of this class. His brother Elliot was drafted and now in the AHL for Philadelphia. This guy has always been on NHL teams' radars. I think his hype actually decreased because he went to the Q. If he goes to the NCAA and he performs really well, I think this guy could honestly have been in contention for the number 1 pick just based on how good he is. Everybody talks bad about the Q, but they played incredible at the Mem Cup. I think that it's just one of those things that Caleb Desnoyers' hype is a little lower, and I don't think it should be. This kid is incredibly talented.
Yeah, definitely. I'm big on Caleb Desnoyers. Respects for putting some respect on the Q as an East Coaster here. Don't get much, but Colton knows it very well. But let's go back to the combine for a sec. You said you were there with Russ. We talked with Russ about the combine. Was there anybody at the combine that really kind of sparked your interest or surprised you in any way?
Mm-hmm. James Haggins, I got to sit down with him for about 20-25 minutes. We were just drinking some waters. I think it was just awesome to hear about how much of a talk of the town he was. I mean, he knows it too. This guy just is a great person. I think that it was just one of those things that the Islanders got lucky with the number 1 pick. He obviously wants to be an Islander, but he understands that it's probably it could happen if there's a trade up. But what I heard was the Brady Martin thing at 4. Obviously, this isn't coming directly after the combine, so everybody kind of heard that. Brady Martin probably will go to 4 unless there is a trade down. I think a trade down would be absolutely the best case scenario. You don't take Brady Martin 4. But James Haggins, I think, should be a top 5 pick. And I think that he's probably locked in at the Predators' 5th pick. I think it would just be really great to put him there. I think when I saw him as well as Colin Potter, a lot of the NCAA guys, they are a lot bigger in person than you see on screen. I mean, it's just their arms, their muscle. I mean, James Haggins kind of looked like had the lower half of Connor Bedard-esque, not in the same tier because Connor Bedard had like his legs were like tree trunks. But the thing with James Haggins is he is not a small kid. Like, he is filled out pretty well. And it's because when you go to the NCAA, you're working out 4 times a week, skating all like every single day. It's a lot more structured instead of playing games. And when you play games, you're burning a ton of calories. You're just working out as much as you possibly can. So I feel like it's going to help players like Jackson Smith, who you had on. I think that it's going to help Porter Martone if he goes there. Gavin McKenna when he decides to go to one of the state schools. I think that it's just going to help a lot of the players out that are in the CHL. And that was the most exciting thing to see, was how physically developed some of the players are. Same with the SHL guys. And Victor Eklund does not look 170 pounds. That dude he plays like he's 200 pounds, but he actually is more built than I thought too.
That's a good note though, because I think that's something even myself, like with the WHL, like you see some of the players play, but then you see them outside of their jerseys and they're like, some of them are just jacked, like completely. Like you just wouldn't expect it, right? So yeah, I like that. We got a question from Big Willie Styles in the chat. Does the combine affect where a player is going to be drafted?
Interview wise, I do not think the physical skills matter. Maybe the VO2 bike or something, that the jump or something like that, maybe bench press. But I mean, Sam Bennett did 0 pull-ups. Connor McDavid did 1 or something of that sort.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't really matter to me. Or I don't think NHL GMs, they're obviously there, and some of them are there. Some of them went home, but Mike Greer was there sitting in the bleachers. I mean, Kyle Dubas was there in the lobby, but I don't know if he was there for the testing. But the interviews are a huge portion of this part. You saw the guys that had bad interviews, and you saw the guys that had really good interviews. So obviously teams talk too, and teams talk to beat reporters and media, and you kind of get a sense of the lay of the land of how the teams kind of think about players. Because Brady Martin might go top 5 in this class. He was not consensus top 5 for any time in this entire class for the last 5 years. So yeah, I think it does make a difference, and especially like Roger McQueen. I think helped his draft stock more than anybody else, because he did do pull-ups, he did do bench press, and he said that his back was misdiagnosed. That's why it took a little longer time. So I feel like that helped him more than anybody, in my opinion.
I want to touch on Brady Martin just for a second, because this was a conversation that we had with Stephen Ellis. I know Brady Martin is like locked in as he's a big farm boy. He's a big tough kid. Like I saw a video, they asked like the players what their favorite video games were, and Brady Martin goes, "I don't play video games." He's on the farm. But anyways, he's got that big offensive or big like strong side to him, but he's not pegged as an offensive scorer. Do you think if a team takes a jump on him at 5 or at 4, do you think they might lose out on that offensive ability? Yeah, they're getting a great team player, but the scoring might sometime never show up.
I do not believe, and this is nothing against Brady Martin. I do not believe Brady Martin should be drafted top 6 in this class. If he goes to Bruins, that's fine, because that's a perfect fit for them. But if you are drafting somebody at top 5 or 4 with Utah, you need somebody that has more offensive prowess, unless you're picking obviously an elite generational defenseman or whatever it is. But you need somebody that has a lot more playmaking ability, offensive potential. And obviously Brady Martin just didn't show what it takes to be a top 5 pick. I think that his incredible hitting and physicality, even though he's 170 pounds, definitely opened some eyes. And especially with the NHL draft being like 5 or 7 days right after the Stanley Cup finals, I think it really makes a difference. If this was the NFL draft and you had to wait 3 months, I think Brady Martin might get drafted a little differently. Like Brady Martin should be drafted probably in the top 11. I do think that if he obviously winds up going near the Penguins, the Sioux connection with Kyle Dubas in 2013-14 is obviously going to be a big part, but there's no reason why Utah should be drafting him 4. You got gifted the number 4 pick. You either trade down and get a ton of assets and then just take best player available if Brady Martin isn't there, and then you get a guy that shouldn't have been there anyway, and you get assets on top of it, or you get Brady Martin at 4 and you just lose all the value that you had gotten, because we were mocking Brady Martin at 14 and some of the mock drafts even before the draft, or 12 or 13. So you're maybe you fell in love with Brady Martin and that's kind of the reason why, and you were going to trade up for him anyway, but you can still trade back a couple picks and get some of that asset value, because it's unfair to him too. I mean, fans are going to want him to score 40 goals a year basically if you pick him number 4 and try to get 100 points or whatever it is, 70 points or whatever, when this guy is productive in the OHL, but his skill set is more about being kind of a really good middle 6 player that can just beat you up in the playoffs too. And as he continues to build more size and add that muscle, he's just going to be an absolute bowling ball out there. So I think it's a little tough to take him 4, in my opinion.
Yeah, you talk about the draft rankings and how he jumped so high up, like from 12 to 13, almost to the top 5. That's exactly what Caleb Desnoyers did. But a thing about Caleb Desnoyers is that he actually has that offensive side, and I think that's kind of a reasonable aspect. Like I don't see that happening for Martin. Maybe he might get off the board early, but I just don't see him going.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I gotta ask you about a couple players that are behind me here on this wall. Tommy Lafreniere and Nathan Bain. But let's start with Nathan Bain first, because he's more of the projected first-round pick on some rankings, of course. If you had a chance to watch him this year, and what did you make of Nathan Bain?
Yeah, I like his game a lot. I didn't get to talk to him at the combine. I do think that he's more of he would be ranked more 45 in my rankings. I don't think he's a first rounder, but I do like his game a lot. And could you see a team, picking the upside with him? Yes, I think that could be, because I do see him as an NHLer, but I don't know if it's more of like a bottom sixer. And the thing is, like, just with Lafreniere, I also think that this is a good player, but he is lower on my rankings than consensus.
Yeah.
So I didn't see him or talk to him this year either, I think, at the combine. But I do think that he's a good player that you kind of take within the 60s, in my opinion. Again, I'm a little lower than consensus. I think that this is a really great draft, and I would rather have somebody above, I would take a lot of players. Like, obviously, Nathan has a ton of size. I mean, 6'2", he's a really great player. But the thing is, like, I would rather have a Mason West over him. I would rather take the swing on Prokhorov. I would rather take like Cole McKinney. Obviously, I don't know if that's the same range, but obviously he was productive in the WHL this year. I think he had like 67 points or 60 something. He surprised me multiple times this season, but the thing is, I just think that this class has a lot more depth in the second round than a lot of people have kind of said so. So I think you would be getting value. Like, if the Blackhawks obviously drafted him 62 overall with that Stars pick, I would be so happy. But if they would take him 34th, I would be a little upset that we were leaving value on the table there. So I think it's just where you pick him.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. The one I talked to one scout, obviously not going to name him, but we kind of talked a little bit about how Bain is almost like a Jamie Benn. Like, in a sense, there's like that, he can score, but then there's that flat range where the consistency drops and then it kind of picks back up. And I watched Bain all year, and he's very right in that sense that, Bain can go on a tear, score for 6 or 7 games, but then be held off the score sheet for 5 games right after. So I think I agree with your statement there about him going off the board at 34 would be a bit of a stretch when there's other players available. And another player I wanted to get your opinion on was Matthew Gard. I've liked him a lot. He's a guy that's kind of shot up on a lot of rankings, bigger forward, plays for Red Deer. What do you make of Gard, and do you see him being like a second, third round kind of pick?
It's actually funny. I'm editing my video interview with Gard now or today before I went on here, and I was just watching his highlights again, on Instat, just kind of his clips, and I really like how I got to talk to him at the combine too, and he answered a lot of my questions. But he's always in the front of the net. He has really good hands. I think that he's a good. I mean, when you saw him with Team Canada, he was a very good power play option when he was just trying to screen the net and get in front. He's going to be able to get into the center of the ice, do the dirty areas. I think that he's just one of those guys that I think has a lot of potential. I would love him with the Blackhawks at 62. Obviously, I really like Guard's game. I think that he is of I think that he has the opportunity to be an early second round pick, top 40 in my opinion. I think that he's very skilled too. He has a lot more to work on his game, but I think that he can obviously do that. Great family too. His dad interacts with my tweets all the time, so I think that's freaking awesome. When that happens, it's just like funny. But I really do like his game, and there's not a lot to. I think he would be more of a middle six or two, kind of more on that third line. But with that said, I think you're getting a really good NHL player as well. I think that he will make it to the NHL. I think that his floor is a lot higher than other players just because of how he plays and his skill set.
Colton snuck in a couple questions about a couple local guys there, so I've got to get one in myself. But, the Q doesn't produce a lot of first, second rounders, so I'm going to go down into the third or a bit lower. Have you seen Carlos Handel, the defenseman from the Halifax Mooseheads at all? And what do you think of him?
Yeah, he is awesome. He's, I believe, German. And so I really like his game. I think that he could be a late second rounder. I've actually been projecting him as a late second rounder in my rankings. I'm a little higher on him than consensus. I think that this draft is actually filled with really big defensemen. I mean, going back to Carter Amico, Rambach, Wang. I mean, there's just so many. Trethway is 6'2", but it's still the same. Like, there's just so many good defensemen in this kind of core or this class, Limitov, that I think that he kind of drops a little bit on a lot of boards. But the thing is, like, this guy is actually, I think, a third pair defenseman in the future. I think that, obviously, in my opinion, I think the offensive translatability is a little not as good as some of the other defensemen, but I do think that he does have really good skills. I think that his defense is obviously, he's more of a defensive defenseman in the NHL, in my opinion. And if he continues to work on that, he can be a stable role. I don't think he's a Nicholas Hjalmarsson, but I kind of like that comp because he is good at blocking shots, and I think that he could fill the lane correctly, and his skating is not bad, and I feel like that's just kind of what you need as a defenseman. So I think he could make it, and like early to late second to third round, I think would be a good spot for him.
Oh, 100%. And you talk about blocking shots in the first round against Drummondville this year. I think he had double digits in 7 games. So this guy's willing to put his body on the line. But I've got one more for you before we wrap up. Colton and I were kind of talking about this before. NCAA players going down, or CHL players going down to the NCAA, but they still have a year left of eligibility at the World Juniors. Do you think Hockey Canada kind of gives them the shaft a little bit and says, like, no, you're not playing? Because there's been so many to commit.
That's a great question. I mean, we saw Hockey Canada do it to one of their best players with Michael Misa, and I mean, that was tough to watch because they obviously needed his exact skill set. So if they're going to do it to Michael Misa, I think that they can do it to anybody they honestly want. That's a really good question, and I have not been asked that yet. So it's really interesting to think about.
I was thinking, like, Cole Reshny, he was probably a lock for that team. I know Justin Poirier, he's obviously on the smaller side, but he's 19. He's put up points the last couple of years, just committed to Maine. That's another guy that was kind of interested me. I don't know. It's something to think about for sure.
Yeah, it definitely is.
We just had on.
Yeah.
Jackson Smith, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
I don't know.
You have to put Jackson Smith on because, I mean, who are you going to replace him with? He's one of the best left-handed defensemen that you have. I mean, Michael Misa was one of your best center wing options that you had too. So that's the only thing. If Michael Misa was there, I probably would have had a different answer. But if they basically gave away a gold medal campaign because they didn't put Michael Misa there, in my honest opinion. And then obviously Matthew Schaefer got hurt, and Sam Dickinson is obviously a great defenseman, but it did look like after Matthew Schaefer was gone, the breakout passes just were not there. Obviously, Porter Martone played 10 minutes and he scored a goal, but he only played 10 minutes a game for 3 games and scored a goal, and they kind of just shut him down after. And then they put him on the men's world, so it was just kind of interesting. But Hockey Canada is really weird. I honestly have no idea how to predict them year over year. It's just kind of like an assembly of players that are usually really good, but it's not always the best team. So I don't know. I don't know what they would do.
Yeah, it's tough to say. It's definitely tough to say. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on before we let Anthony go here, Colton?
Yeah, who was your favorite player you interviewed at the combine?
Favorite player? Okay, so Merca, but I want to get in Vaslav Nestrasil because I absolutely love this kid. Now he's 6'6", playing in Muskegon. I think he was the second best player other than Lawrence, who is 2026 eligible, who's going to be absolutely awesome. I think the Vaslav Nestrasil is going to be a star in this league. I think that he's very undervalued in this kind of class. I think he could go in the top 20, and I would not be surprised. I think a lot of people would, but he just has a really great outlook on life. He had 4 brothers. One of them got drafted in the 3rd round to the Red Wings way back when, and he's kind of just grown up near hockey. So I feel like he was more PR trained than anybody else, but it wasn't like he was PR trained. He was just saying all the right answers and he was just having fun. There was no anxiety toward this at all. Matthew Schaefer is obviously like the greatest person of all time, and I don't think he's fake at all. I got to talk to him for about like 40 minutes before 2 months ago, and then I saw him at the combine. Like, he remembers everybody. He has an incredible memory, so he just says all the right things too. And also Anton Frundell was awesome. That guy can make he was pretty funny.
That's awesome. Okay, wait, I got one more. I remembered this because you interviewed this guy a couple months ago and I watched it. But Carter Bear, he's probably one of my favorite players in the WHL, aside from Gavin McKenna and aside from the Blazers players, of course. But where do you see Bear going? Because did his injury at all, is it going to impact where he goes, do you think?
Well, I think he was probably ranked 12 for many people that I had saw. Like, consensus probably had him 12. I think he could slip to 15 for the Habs. I'm kind of, if it was a mock draft, I do usually Carter Bear 15 and then Logan Hensler 16, or vice versa, because they have both picks if they don't necessarily trade out. But the thing is, like, Carter Bear is one of those guys that he has a lot of hard skill. He said that in my interview multiple times, and he even apologized for saying it. I was like, don't apologize. Like, this guy is so down to earth. 2 years ago, he had no idea that this was going to ever happen. I think that he is one of the most genuine people that I've talked to this year. My dog's name was Bear, and my dog kept barking, and his dog started howling, and I kept saying, Bear, stop. And he kept stopping. I was like, please don't, like, no, you don't stop. So I had to edit like half of the interview out because our dog started howling, and it was just a great moment. He did not care. He's just very humble and down to earth. I think that he's going to excel in those interviews. He was great in the media scrums. Anything you throw at him, he's going to say incredibly well. His player comp, as you have heard in my interview, was Brandon Hagel, and I feel like any team would kind of love to have a Brandon Hagel. And you're getting somebody that can go to this middle of the ice. He played with Landon Dupont, and he understands like playing with elite defensemen with the breakouts because it helped his game too. The lacerated Achilles is going to affect his draft stock slightly, but the thing was, he wasn't a Colin Potter type of skater. He had more average NHL skating, so I don't think it actually is going to hurt him as much. And also, he's skating now, and he's going to be participating in some hockey activities, so that means that he dodged an actual bullet with that injury. It could have been a lot worse, because if it was a true full tear of your Achilles, or the lacerated Achilles had long-term effects, he wouldn't be skating for 8 to 12 months on an Achilles injury. You just wouldn't be able to. So the fact that he's already on ice, already doing things, like he was walking with no boot at the combine, and he was willing to answer. I think he was more sad about not playing in the playoffs. Like, that's the kind of person he is. He didn't care about his draft stock. Anywhere from probably 11 to 15, because obviously Penguins could take him 11 or 12, because I do believe the Rangers are getting ready to give them the Penguins pick 48 hours beforehand. But basically what they're doing, I think they're going to keep on to their Gavin McKenna sweepstakes slip. So he could go to Penguins at 11, in my opinion. Like, that could be his height max range.
I like that. Man, you're the best. You got so much knowledge. We're going to have you back on again sometime. Before we let you go, though, you got a prediction for tonight's game?
Yeah, I think Panthers are closing out, and then people are going to start watching prospect videos more, so the views are going to go up a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think Panthers probably get it done. It seems to be the way it's all kind of going, but we'll see.
And Conn Smythe, I'll say Marchand. I think it's just yeah.
Yes.
That's a good one.
I've said it last night on the podcast, and everybody gave me shit for it. Everybody gave me shit.
I might get shit for that. But...
I mean, it's Bennett or him, right? Who do you give it to?
Yeah.
That's about it.
All right, Anthony. Well, thank you for a great episode. We definitely want you to come back on. Take care and have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks for having me, boys. See ya.
Well, Colton, another great one. Right before we go, Anthony gave his prediction. Let's give ours.
4-2 Panthers.
4-2 Panthers?
Yeah.
I'll say 5-4 in overtime. Stanley Cup's coming out after an overtime game winner.
An overtime winner
From
from Brad Marchand.
From Brad.
There you go. There you go.
Well, everyone, we thank you for tuning in for another great episode of GDT Live. If you're just tuning in or if you missed the first half, we had Jackson Smith, Penn State Nittany Lions commit. We talked to him earlier in the morning, and we played that interview today. And then Anthony Donati, the Prospect Don, joined us. Great episode, so go watch that back if you haven't. Also, go tune into the podcast episodes over on our YouTube and the Spotify and Apple Podcast versions of them if you only need the audio versions. And we will see you right back here tomorrow with a special guest. But there's a question mark. If the Florida Panthers lose, Johnny Lazarus will not be able to join us as he has to fly back to Edmonton. We'll be working on that. But if the Oilers lose tonight and the Stanley Cup is handed out, Johnny Lazarus from Morning Cup of Hockey will be joining us tomorrow. So stay tuned for that, folks, and have a good one. We'll be back on GDT Live.